We're going to have tens of seminars here about new technology, interesting ways of looking at this industry. I have 15 minutes, and I'm here to talk about the mindset that you need to have today at this conference to get the most out of it. So I'm going to start by going back. You are here to create the future. I'm going to go back in time. So join me in an imaginary time machine, and let's go back 25 years. 1997. And in 1997, there was a beginning of a revolution that we didn't fully understand. And of course, now we are totally aware of it, but at the time we were not. So I wanted to mentally go back to that time. Of course, at that time, it was a revolution within communication. For almost 100 years, things didn't really change. People had a telephone and they used it, and the people who ran the communication industry were big organizations, big government companies, and the words that were driving them were stability, predictability, profitability. They were very focused on making a lot of money. They were making obscene amounts of money because we were communicating more and more, but they were not investing really in innovation. They just wanted to keep the system up and running. But then, of course, the venture capitalists came in, and in 1997, the most hated bill was the telephone bill. Most of you are younger, but in my age, my father and mother would take me and sit me down and say, "Do not make so long phone calls, my son. We can't afford it." We hated the telephone bill. That's the last time you hated your telephone bill. It doesn't happen anymore. But at that time, it was. But when something is too expensive, venture capital goes says, "I want part of this profit as well." Entrepreneurs come in and they say, "Why is no one innovating in this industry? We need to disrupt it. We don't want stability. We want disruption. We don't want predictability. We want innovation. And we don't, oh yeah, we do want the profitability." And in 1997, this, I have to say, feels exactly like an internet conference in 1997. It's like freaky. We were here in 97. We were like, the revolution is coming, everything is happening. But our mother and our father and our brothers, they had no clue. Like the average guy in 97 did not understand what was going on. Oh yes, maybe they had a mobile phone, but that was a telephone without a cord. They could play Snake on it, but that's it. In 1997, 1%, 1 in 100, had access to the internet. While we saw the internet revolution is happening, 1 in 100 had internet. But then, 10 years later, from 97 to 2007, Steve Jobs launches the iPhone, and suddenly the user experience is magnified, so much nicer. People go, wow, hundreds of apps. In 2007, 1 in 5 had access to the internet. Of course, this is the dot-com boom. And we all know about it. It's obvious now, but at the time it was not. And yes, we had a bust, but that's not important because the boom just continued. And it's interesting to remember that in 1997, the biggest players did not exist. Google was founded 1 year after 1997. Mark Zuckerberg was a little boy. Now let's go into the time machine and go forward. Let's go to today. And of course, I will argue now that we are seeing exactly the same transition happening, but not this time in communication, but is in energy. Let's look at the energy sector. For 100 years, been controlled by big organizations and big government organizations. They are focused on stability, on predictability, and they make a lot of money, obscene amounts of money. But for me as a user, what has changed? For most people, it is the same experience as 100 years ago. And the most hated bill today is not the telephone bill, the most hated bill is the electricity bill. And I'm not sitting down with my children talking to them about how much they can make a phone call or how long the phone calls can be. They have unlimited data. But I talk to them about how long they can take a shower. Okay, can you please calm down the shower? Let's call it the what-com boom. And you might feel, oh, this is happening right now, but most people have no clue that this is happening. They know there's some hype going on, but they are not experiencing it yet. But I'm here to say that the next 10 years is where all these things will happen, all the change will actually happen, and it's not the players we think it would be that will make it happen. The Google of this revolution haven't even been founded yet, and a young guy or a young girl is sitting somewhere and we be the player who creates the Facebook of the PLANETech. So you are here thinking you have this under control. I know what's happening. I'm ahead of the game. I'm a visionary. I'm here to tell you the lesson that we learned in 1997. And that is that we were not visionary enough. We were not curious enough. I'm going to argue that the most important thing you can do in this conference is to maximize your curiosity in what is happening and how and what you can learn. So I'm going to use my 9 minutes now to encourage you, basically warm up if you want, stretch your curiosity aspect. So I've been studying creativity since 1995. I started my first internet company in 95, I sold it in 99, and I've been studying human creativity around the world. I define myself as the creativity explorer. I interview thousands, tens of thousands of people of what makes them the more creative. I've done it in over 70 countries, and believe it or not, it's the first time I am in Israel, which is a big shame. Finally! And I have interviewed some of the most creative people on the planet. And I wanted to share with you about how they approach curiosity. You see, curiosity, if you hear the word, you know, curiosity, it's a childish word. It's like curiosity kills the cat, Curious George. It's something that children are. No, it's not. Curiosity is a profound word. The meaning, a strong desire to know or learn something. So let me share with you the most beautiful story I've heard about the power of curiosity. It's Mr. Frank Stevenson that I interviewed. And if you don't know Frank Stevenson, he is the designer of the Mini. He designed the Fiat 500. He was the head of design at Ferrari, and he built the McLaren streetcar from scratch. He's an iconic car designer. And as he said, I'm the most curious person on the planet. And he told me this story, and I want you to, when I tell you this story, because I know all of you think, oh, I'm such a curious person. I want you to think, how would you react in the way that what happened to him? So Frank told me this story. Just before he started at McLaren, quit the Ferrari, had a 2-week vacation. He said, I'm going to go to Bahamas. He goes to Bahamas, he comes to the hotel, he checks into the hotel, and behind the receptionist is a sailfish, a stuffed sailfish. He sees the fish, and he says to the receptionist, wow, what's the story with the fish? The receptionist says, I don't know. No one has ever asked. He said, what do you mean? Thousands of people have checked into this hotel and no one has ever asked about it. He's the first one. He says, I want to know more. I don't know. Can I talk to the owner? Sure, the owner comes. Why do you have a sailfish in the back of the reception? He goes, because sailfish, they are the kings of the ocean, the fastest. It's not the sharks, it's the sailfish are the fastest fish. And if you catch one, it's like catching a lion. And he learns about the speed of the sailfish. But then his vacation is over. He's on a plane going back to start at McLaren. He has a 7-hour layover in Miami. And he says to himself, wait a minute, I need to know more. So instead of sitting in the business lounge for 7 hours, he leaves the airport and he goes to the port of Miami to see if maybe, if he's lucky, someone has caught a sailfish. And he's so lucky, he actually catches a guy who has caught a sailfish. He goes up to the guy. Wow, congratulations. You must be so happy. The guy says, yeah, I'm going to frame it on the wall. Frank says, no, you're not. You're going to sell it to me. I want to buy your sailfish. The guy goes, are you stupid? Do you know how hard it is to catch a sailfish? I'm going to stuff it on the wall. It's not for sale. Frank says, everything is for sale. Just name your price. The guy says, I want $20,000. Frank picks up his credit card that he just received from McLaren and pays the guy $20,000 for the fish. He almost gets fired before he begins. He stuffs the fish up for a few more dollars. He ships it to England and he paints it in the colors of McLaren. And he hangs it in the studio of the McLaren design. This is the actual fish. To remind them to make fast cars. But then, and this is the important part, then he says to his team, why are they so fast? So he puts it in the wind tunnel to study the sailfish. And it turns out that the sailfish has tiny little bumps on a few parts of the body, which creates a little swirl that makes a tiny vacuum, which makes the fish go faster. And the design language of the McLaren car is all based on what makes animal fast in nature. And the McLaren has those bumps on a few parts of the car. Most people go to the hotel and see a fish and say, wow, look at that fish, and then they go to the beach. To me, this is the power, the beauty of being curious. So since I'm the first speaker and we have the whole conference in front of us and you've just been sitting here listening, I thought I should warm you up. You're going to do a 30-second exercise, and 30 seconds only, because I know you're Israeli, okay? 30 seconds. I want everyone to stand up and talk to a person that you do not know. And I want you to use a curious mindset. I want you to be deeply, profound interest in what the other person can teach you. Ask good questions and good follow-up questions and see how deep can I get to know another person in 30 seconds if I am curious. Okay, everyone stand up. All right, go. All right, thank you very much. You can sit down. Sit down, thank you. Now let me wrap this up. You see, the true meaning of the word curiosity, the etymology of the word curiosity is that the word curiosity comes from the word cura, and the word cura means to care. This means that if you are curious about something, it means that you care about this. It also means the other way around. If you don't care about something, it could be NFTs or whatever, you are not curious about it, it means you don't care about that. And I know that the fact that you are here today means that you are most likely one of the 100 most curious persons on the planet. But I don't want you to compare yourself with the average person. I want you to be the most curious person, because I want you to understand this. If this is where we are going to reveal and get to know some of the most interesting technologies that will change the world in the future, some people here will have an ego so big that they won't be able to listen to a person who tells them something because they will judge this person as being non-interesting. Some people here will be so shy that they won't go up to that person that they respect so much that they won't go and ask the question they wanted to ask because their shyness killed the curiosity. Or some people will be so ignorant that they think that they know everything, and thus they will not listen to that, go up and talk to that person in the booth because they think, I already know what they're doing. And that would be a shame. But think about the 1% most curious people who are here today. The ones that will go up and listen to that person that they thought was uninteresting because they were humble enough to think they can learn something new. Or they have the audacity to go up and talk to the person they never thought they had the bravery to go up and talk to because they wanted to learn something new. Or the understanding that we don't know anything, even if you are the industry expert in this area, because the world is changing so fast right now. So my call of action for you in this conference today is to be the most curious person at PLANETech, because I'm absolutely convinced that 20 years from now, when we go in the time machine and we look, who were the winners in the big PLANETech boom that happened in 2022 and the next 10 years? It will be the most curious ones. So be curious. Thank you very much.